and we saved the best for last for sure, because right up here on the stage with me are LGS experts. I know we've been hearing from a lot of experts, but who has more expertise than we do as LGS parents, as LGS caregivers, as students of all things LGS? And so even though you're not up on the stage, you are also experts, and these are some moms and dads that are here to share some of their wisdom with you, and then we're going to ask you to kind of give it back to us. So we will need mic runners if anybody's, Jen's out there. Okay. So I'm going to ask our panel here this afternoon to share with us a little something that they may have made note of. If you didn't make note of it in your notebook, that's okay. We're not having a quiz, but maybe you made note of it in your brain about kind of something that touched your heart, something you learned, an action you want to follow up on, or potentially a person that you want to remember or people you want to remember for one reason or another. So I'm going to ask our panelists, and Kurt, if it's okay, we'll start with you down on the end. And if you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your family and your child with LGS, and mention something that touched your heart from the conference or something you learned or whatever you want to share that would be a good takeaway for our audience in terms of wisdom from experts. Did I put you on the spot too fast? Should I pick somebody else? You're good?
I'll be okay.
Okay.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kurt Oberhausen, and I am the dad of Addison. And Addison is 5 years old. She is the most beautiful, I'm biased, most beautiful, joyous, resilient person that I know. And honestly, she's my inspiration and hope. Addison was born with congenital CMV, one of the most common viral newborn illnesses, and that caused intracranial calcifications and eventually led to seizures and a diagnosis of LGS when she was about 2 years old. And so we've been in this LGS journey for just shy of 3 years. And honestly, this is my first time. I'm here with my wife, Cassie, and she's raising her hand. Say hi, everyone. And as our first time being here in a conference, the thing that really touches my heart, there's just so many great stories. From Landon's legacy to all the sessions and everything, but what really has touched my heart is this community. We've been involved for 3 years, and that's been through Zoom meetings, through the Facebook private community group, but there's really nothing that matches that energy of actually meeting your people that get us, that are going through the same things right here today. That's right. And honestly, that's what's touched my heart the most. Mm-hmm. From people just starting off, people just new to the diagnosis, to those who've been here for a while, and here to mentor, people like myself, like Cassie, who haven't been on this journey for that long. So that's the most important thing that I'm taking away.
So if we were in a Baptist church, a lot of people would probably yell amen to Kurt. We're not in a Baptist church, but you do have index cards. And so if you were also touched in a similar way Kurt did, just give your index card a wave. This is a good time for a picture. And we got lights back there. Love it. Okay. Kurt, do you have anything you wanted to add to that, or ready to pass it to Ben?
I think one thing as a takeaway from this conference, in our own personal journey, we've played defense for the past 3 years of this journey. It's been a case of, Addison started off with hundreds of head drop seizures a day, and we got to a point of medication on top of medication on top of 8 medications, way too many. And kind of these discussions, and we've always kind of lived in that crisis center. We can't live like that. We have to move past that because life has to continue. And instead of defense, I think we're going to kind of go on the offense. And we're going to, one of the examples here is We've always thought of the congenital CMV as the root cause. Our neurologist has never brought up genetic testing to us. That's one thing that we're taken away of. What's the worst that's going to happen? If we do genetic testing, the worst thing that's going to happen is there's going to be no results. But let's do it. We've never been offered. So that's one immediate takeaway that we're going to have.
I love hearing you say that, Kurt. What was it that flipped the switch for you? Like, was it a particular doctor talking or just like stories? How did the switch flip to like being bold and going to offense instead of defense?
Combination of, again, everyone in this community, between family stories of others that have shared to, for example, Dr. Scott Perry, some of his conversations. I know Cassie's attended some of the ones on genetics, and it's, sometimes naive. We don't know these things until we actually hear it. And then it's just, we've always kind of maybe put that trust into our doctor, into our neurologist, and there's actually so much more that can be done.
You can be the quarterback of the team. Yeah, great. Would you pass the mic to Ben? Let's hear from Ben and see what he's taken away from all this.
Well, there's so much. So
first, introduce yourself.
My name is Ben Decter. I have been dealing with this for a long time. So my daughter Addie's 27. When she was 17 months old is when she had infantile spasms, the diagnosis. And it's just such a overwhelming feeling to think about the journey. So much going through my head. So yes, where my heart goes out to is people I just met. I'm looking at Emily and Kurt. Emily is my daughter's age. And just thinking of that loop from her Addie's seizures went away with medicine when she was 17 months, and we thought we were done. We tried vigabatrin, it worked. We're like, that was crazy. We moved, and we thought it'd be amazing to think that that would be just a crazy experience we had, and it's all behind us. And 2 years later, they came back with a vengeance. And then it was 5 years of dealing with all kinds of medicines and just going off the rails, little Russian faith healing, Kabbalah. Probably didn't work. But
it didn't hurt, right?
But it didn't hurt.
Okay.
And it made for some interesting stories. And she had another drug trial we got on when she was 9 that did work and was able to stop her seizures. And I guess when I think about, especially all of you who are new at it, you just don't know what the future holds. And I can promise that there will be things will change. They'll be unexpected. And so that's something I feel really deeply. And I want you to all know that things can change. And every medicine, I'm not kidding, when I walked down that hall, they didn't exist when we started. So it's great to know that there's people really working to help things get better. And one other thing is I see like Cassie and Kurt. Now I feel like, as my dad was saying to me when we started dealing with this, is to try to take care of yourself is so important. You can't forget about that. And I know it's hard to do. So whatever works for you. So for me, it was ridiculous because I'm not like a fighter like my daughter is, but someone turned me on to a boxing gym that helped so much. It helped when I started writing. For me, I'm a musician and started writing songs about it. These are things I didn't want to talk about. But as I started to talk about it, my wife actually said at some point she felt like I was giving our family a gift by talking about it, instead of trying to be like a tough guy and think being quiet was helpful, because it wasn't. And all these years later, it's been really exciting and also kind of surreal. But from being someone who didn't want to talk about it, I started writing songs about it. And that became a musical that we're going to be putting on in Los Angeles this fall. So if you told me...
Okay, so stop and listen to that 1 second. Can you picture it? LGS the musical?
Right.
I cannot wait.
Yeah, so it's another one of those
mechanism for Ben.
Strange life twists. But yes, so we have songs talking about the things my daughter was doing when she was 4 and talking about seizures in the bathtub. And it's just been really helpful. And even just in the process of writing this, I found people have come up to me in my neighborhood in LA and stopped me, people I hadn't talked to before, and said even hearing about the musical's announcement, like their wife, who's an actress, said, I've never told anyone I had epilepsy. I was worried I wouldn't get work. And just hearing there's a musical about it is making her think. And I think she's probably in her 50s that, you know what, maybe I want to start talking about it. And that just felt great. So if I can help anyone save 20 years, don't overthink it. Start talking about it now. I think it could help.
And I noticed, like at our house too, I don't know if you and Jackie are this way, but Jeff deals with it differently than I do. And I've kind of we've had to meet each other in the middle sometimes. He's had to learn to talk about it. Were you guys kind of like that? She's more...
Right. So the way it went for us, so one of the strange things that happened, there was so much that was surreal. So Addie's first preschool was a therapeutic preschool inside the psychiatric department in a hospital. Who would have thunk it? As part of the preschool, we had to agree to go to parent groups. So we go in these parent groups, and Jackie would start talking about all the things that were wrong with Addie. And I thought she was a total betrayal. And I would counter with, but look at all these things she does. She can play with snails, and she makes people laugh. And so that was our dynamic, was I thought talking about the hard things was betraying her and giving up on her. So, yeah.
That's a hard one to negotiate, isn't it? The difference. Thanks for sharing that. Let's pass the mic to Trisha. Stay tuned for more information on the musical, though.
I can't wait for that. I am Trisha. My son Mason is 16. He had his first seizure when he was 6 months old. He was diagnosed with LGS when he was 3. When he was 7, we found out he has a specific genetic mutation. It's the IQ-SEC2 gene. I am one of the Florida family ambassadors. So if there's anybody from Florida that I haven't talked to, make sure you talk to me. Something that really struck me, it got me at 3 o'clock in the morning. First of all, I want to say, I hope that everybody gets to experience this conference in all 3 formats, whether you go virtually, which I've done and it's phenomenal, in person with your LGSer, and in person without. There are massive benefits to both. My LGSer, my son Mason, is not here with me on this trip, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, my neighbor's LGSer was with me. They were obviously having a really rough night, and it woke me up and I could hear it. And I just laid there with my heart burst wide open, and I said, I was asked to think about somebody I would want to remember, or people that I want to remember. And I can tell you, I was laying there thinking of times that it had happened to me. I like to travel with Mason, and we've been in situations where he's had those all-night loud parties with himself. And I remember hoping that security wasn't going to knock on my door and say, what's going on in here? Is everybody okay? Or anything, or even just fearing that there was judgment coming through the wall. And I don't know if the person is in the room. If you feel like it was you on the 2nd floor, please find me after so that I can hug you, Mom, Dad, LGSer, because it wasn't judgment or aggravation coming through the wall to you. I was purposely sending you all my love and empathy. And for the parents who have had to, or felt like they had to take their loved one out of the room because they were being noisy or for whatever reason, when you come to these conferences, you do not have to apologize. Every one of us is your family. Don't ever, ever, ever feel like you have to walk away or make yourself smaller or make your child quiet. We've all been there. So just showing up, I'm so proud of you, whether you're virtual or here with your loved one or without. Show up, because the connections that you make here, I hope that I make a friend because of sharing what happened last night. I hope that whoever, if you think it was you, please come and find me, because I'm going to be your new BFF, and I'm going to give you the hug that I laid there awake for an hour wanting to give you.
Thank you. So I know you're ready to pass the mic away, but is there any other action you want to take after the hug? Is there any other action you'd like to take because of what you've learned at the conference?
My actions, so I guess it's just because I'm in the thick. I have a lot of Florida families as an ambassador, and I'm always thinking of how I can better serve the families that I spend my time volunteering for. So seeing the families and being around other kids here, I'm doubling down on, that's the action I want to take. I loved all the speakers and I learned a lot. I mean, the science is incredible. Everything is so exciting. There's so much to take in, and I usually process those types of things more after the fact when I get home and I can, let it trickle in. But the action I want to take is I'm just really going to double down on being there for families who reach out to me because I love them.
Very good. Thank you, Trish. And this is Jordan.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I am the mother of Miss Chloe over there. She's
best cheeks at the conference, I'm just going to say.
She was first diagnosed with infantile spasms at 3 months old. We were actually out hiking, one of the things that she has loved her entire life. And she just wouldn't wake up at all. I got her home, checked her temperature. It was at 102.6. Took her down to the emergency room, and by the time we got down there, her temperature went from 102.6 to 106.3. And that is where we stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks, and they diagnosed her with the infantile spasms. It was kind of hard because they came in and they were telling us that they were going to do this 2-hour EEG and then get back with me with the results and stuff. And during that time, of course, she wasn't doing anything. And so it was kind of irritating when they came back in. They're just like, okay, well, you're 2 hours up. We're going to take this and go through it. And I was like, but she didn't do anything. Like, you guys didn't get to see what I got to see. And that's when they told me, they're like, actually, no, this entire time she's been seizing. So that was pretty hard to start with. But she then was diagnosed with LGS at 1.5. She was one of the youngest ones during that time to be diagnosed. And it was actually a week before the LGS conference in Colorado. Her neurologist said, hey, I know this is a lot for you to take in, but there's an LGS conference happening in Denver. Would you like to attend? I told him absolutely. And when we went there, that was like a whole game changer for us. I went there alone with her, terrified out of my mind, and everybody there was so welcoming, open arms, and I didn't feel alone anymore. Like I knew that I was taking home a whole lot of friends and so on and so forth. But with that being said, once I left, I said that I wanted to be a part of the LGS community some way, somehow, and in November, I called because I run a Girl Scouts troop in Colorado for an All Abilities. And I called the LGS Foundation and I said, hey, can I get some information for our Special Needs Awareness Day that we're doing? And I believe it was either Kaylee or Kathy on the phone with me. And they're just like, how would you feel about being an ambassador of Colorado? And so I'm also an ambassador for Colorado. So again, if there's anyone from Colorado that I haven't talked to, just like she said, come see me. I'd love to talk to you. But from this conference of being here, I want to say from what melts my heart the most is the way that everyone comes together no matter what it is. Earlier, we had a kiddo who had a seizure, and everybody wanted the conference to stop so that we could go and help her, but we knew that we couldn't, so we all just stood by waiting to see. And it's just, everybody was so wanting to help and jump in and be there, and our community is just amazing. The way that everybody accepts our kids for who they are and how loud they can be, that's what takes my heart. And I just absolutely love all of you guys, because we're all going through this, whether it be the exact same situation, slightly different, but we're all in this together, and that's what takes my heart.
Fantastic. Now, are you hearing a theme? with these folks, you are not on this journey alone. And if you have to write that down to believe it and remember it, do it. Amen to that. Right. What card wave? It is a troop, a tribe, a group, a family that you have joined forever. Kurt, are you also an ambassador? That's what I thought. What state are you?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. Okay, so any New Hampshire or surrounding area people, you can see Kurt. But let's go on to Tiff. Did you have something you wanted to say, Jordan, about another takeaway, or you're good?
No, well, I mean, I've met some pretty amazing families here, and I'm going to give you a shout out. Her son was just recently diagnosed not too long ago, and she came in here full arms, like ready to take on the world, take in all the information, get more information to take home, and fight the battle that she's got started. And I'm honestly super proud of you for that. Yeah.
Very good. That's why we're here. We're taking it on. Absolutely. Tiffany.
Hi, everyone. My name's Tiffany, and my LGS warrior, his name is Grayson. He'll be 10 tomorrow, actually. He was diagnosed officially when he was 4 years old. So his symptoms started with some sensory issues, and he was zoning out in preschool. And the head of school at the time recommended I take him to the neurologist to talk about ADHD and him zoning out. And they did a 45-minute EEG in the office, and I leave learning he has epilepsy. I had never seen a seizure before in my life. I didn't know you could have an absence. I'd only seen the dramatic movie seizures. And that's kind of how our journey started. Through that, he was initially diagnosed with Landau-Kleffner. And then within 6 months, it was found he had LGS. And I remember the neurologist telling me to sit down when he gave the news. And I had a work trip, so my parents came to be in the hospital. And I was like, why? Why is this a big deal? You know, what? I mean, I was just thinking it's not cancer in my mind because I didn't know. And so I was, I rushed off to my work trip, and that's kind of how I'd been functioning, to be honest with you. So he'll be 10 tomorrow. That was when he was 4. And I felt very alone. I was a single mom at the time. And 2 years ago at the last conference, my now husband, we were dating at the time, he told me about the conference. He saw it online. And he asked me 5 times if I wanted to go. And I said, no, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to, I basically had my head in the sand. And I was in survival mode, to be honest with you. It was pure survival mode. It was behaviorally, it was very bad, no sleep, isolating, you name it, kicked out of preschools, church, friends, the whole 9. So, but we came to the conference, and my parents actually joined us, and it changed our life in many ways. And thinking back, I mean, I ran out of 3 or 4 sessions crying because I had never really faced any of that before or thought about what the future could look like. And since then, we changed hospital systems. Grayson, we ended up, due to Dr. Scott Perry. So we go to Cook Children's. Grayson, since then, got a corpus callosotomy. He's decreased medicine. He started talking. He knows his colors a little bit more now. We can now take him to a restaurant without worried about being kicked out or one of us plates broken or one of us hurt. And so it really did change our life. And so what really touched my heart is how this is my community now and how different it was coming into this conference as opposed to 2 years ago. And that I'm not angry anymore. I'm not angry at the system. I see how we're partners with the medical teams and professionals. And it is just, to anyone in pharma or a doctor out here, thank you, because it's a collaboration, and it's just made me feel more hopeful. So, and also, you all are my people. We were, Kayla, are you out here? Okay. Kayla, I hope you're not mad at me for saying this, but okay. So we can laugh about stuff. So Kayla's son is at home with her husband, and she's like, oh gosh, within 10 minutes, now the bathroom's flooding. You know, and I was, oh God, we're talking about our cracked phones and the last seizures, and you just have to roll with the punches. And but they're stories we all
dark
get.
Sense of humor sometimes.
Yeah, but they're stories we all understand. But what feels isolating when we're not together is some other people might not. So, and then the action item and takeaway is to call Grayson's doctor and get a sleep study, because the other thing, I don't know about you, but when people tell me their babies are sleeping through the night at 6 weeks, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I haven't slept in 10 years, you know?
Yeah. No,
So I'm going to get a sleep study.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Excellent. So just in case you're wondering, on your card, we're going to ask you to tell us what touched your heart and what's one action you might take after this. You can briefly write it, but then we'll collect those after everyone goes. But Carmen, let's pass the mic to you.
Hi, I'm Carmen Parker Ward. I'm mother of Corey Parker, my cute 17-year-old. Their story is my story. So I can just say, oh, you were here when I was 32. You were here when I was 41, right? So I do understand everybody's story. Corey has had seizures for 14 and a half years. We started this, he started regressing, like his words, he would say, Mom, I want juice, and then that kind of went away. We moved to California, and he had a seizure at 3.5 at school. You know, the teacher was calling me, and she's like, Corey's not breathing. I had to give him CPR. I want to get my kid. Moving forward, I try not to sit in those spaces, because those spaces do something to me, and then it changes my energy for Corey. So I'm the mom that's like, hey, son, can you play me some music? You're the DJ today. Can you, what movie you want to watch? Do you want a taco? So I've taken this stance of making the best of it for me. If I have 2 days, my husband is here, and my husband is his buddy. But if I have 2 good days, that was the best week ever. Absolutely. So when I wake him up, I say, hey, buddy, I give him the plan of the day, because he's nosy. So before he goes to bed, I'm like, tomorrow, we're going to do this. You are taking a hot dog for lunch, not a burrito. You know, we have to have those conversations. But I do things in modified situations. So we go to the bowling alley. We're there 30 minutes. We had a good day. So I try not to look at it. I try to give him the energy of that we did something great. We made it to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. We put your shoes on. He put his own sandals on the other day. It's important. Yeah. Like, I pay attention to those things, yes. And him picking, I'm like, hey, what are we cooking this week? Hot dogs, burrito, you know, he'll give me this list. But I will make sure that's on the menu. You know, so he's involved in his life. So my story is their story, but I'm in a space to where I'm trying to make the best of it. Mm-hmm. Our story looks, you know, my kid has seizures. He's 6'1", and that's what it is.
But he's still a cool, amazing
human. He is so cool.
And he shops. That's what I love about him. Go ahead.
Let me tell you about this kid, okay? This is my funny of the week. And the joke in our house right now, I threatened him. I'm like, you better not go to Target today. So he has Apple Pay on his phone. It's in his IEP to learn life skills, to pick 3 ingredients where he can make a meal. I know that my son won't cook. He is learning the microwave, but at least he can feed himself. If something happens to me, he can go in the refrigerator and get a Capri Sun, get a cheesesteak, get, you know, certain things. However.
And he's learning the power of your money, right?
So, on the Apple Pay, it's like $19.87. So I'm texting the teacher, and I'm like, did somebody steal Corey's phone? Like, what's happening here? Because he takes a lunch, you know? So she sends me this photo back, and my kid is a hot dog on a stick with a corn dog, the big cup of fries and lemonade. And
He's
I'm
no
like,
fool, right? No.
I was like, oh, so you took yourself to lunch? This is what we do it?
Yeah.
But it makes him happy, right? It makes me happy to know that he's still attempting to do things on his own. So I just sit in that seat.
And Carmen and the school team have set up that possibility for him.
Yeah. So I'm super involved in the IEP. Like,
so, you know what Carmen said with, my story is your story. Your story is our story. Our stories collectively matter. And to solve this problem with LGS, this very annoying, burr up our saddles, we're going to have to work together. So one of my key takeaways from all of this is that, I think one of our doctors today said that a research study is only as good as we make it together. So in order to end LGS, it's going to take all of us. And so on your list of what you should do after the conference is either I'm going to get my kiddos' data on Citizen, or I'm going to check my kiddos' data on Citizen, because that allows us to collectively work together. This community is so incredible, passionate, empathetic, just so driven to make the world a better place for our children. So like Amy Wagner said this morning, we need to challenge our LGS family to rise up and kick some LGS in the teeth for sure. So on your card, if you would please be jotting down something that touched your heart, and if you like something you're going to do after this, we're going to collect those. So if you're bummed by that, write it in your notebook too. But we also have a couple of announcements and a reminder. Our butterfly release is actually going to be at 6 o'clock, so that you have plenty of time to kind of maneuver a little bit, then followed by the reception and dinner dance. There is breakfast provided tomorrow morning, so you can find that as well. But a really important component of what we'd like you to do sometime in the next, day or two is to take the conference survey that Tracy mentioned earlier. And you can get that QR code there. Will it also be emailed out, Tracy? Okay, it'll be emailed out if you don't get to it right now. But really quickly, we have just a few minutes left. Is there anyone that has a question or comment? Would you like to share your joys and takeaways? We got Kara back there. Go ahead.
I wanted to mention something. It was actually last conference, a takeaway I had that was very concrete. I was sitting up where you guys were on a panel talking about the difficulties of my son feeding. And I had so many parents come up to me and said, the feeding tube changed our life. And I was so hesitant. And it was because of my community and my tribe. We got our son the feeding tube. He went from 48 pounds at 15 years old to now 72 pounds, thriving. And it was because of you guys. I don't think I would have gotten the feeding tube if it wasn't for the conference. So concrete things, life changes can happen here.
And
so
Kara,
thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. It's really important to say, I'm going to take that learning and apply it.
Yeah.
So what is that one action that could make a big difference in our lives? You heard more than one person talk about that. Who else? Question, comment? These are great people up here, just like you. Are we good? Oh, there's one. Okay, Kara.
Where?
Keep going. There we go.
This is our first time here at the LGS conference, and we are newly diagnosed, 3 months diagnosed with LGS and 11 with epilepsy for my 8-year-old baseball over here. And it's been a blessing to be here, to finally meet people that I can relate to as a mother. And I realized Thursday that I'm in the medical field, and I am, a caregiver, and it just dawned on me that I'm a caregiver as well to my own son. I thought I was just fulfilling my role as a mother, but I have a second job, and that's what was weighing so hard on me. I have 2 jobs, and one job doesn't, neither one of those 2 jobs turns off ever. And so I can finally relate to people in their stories and say, I went through that. I've lived through that. I have been through, I felt that way, especially talking to yesterday with Tiffany and with Jordan the other days, and so many girls that I've met here, and I think they seen my face the first day when I walked in, and I was so scared and ready to cry because I was so scared to be here. And I leave with my heart filled and with a lot of knowledge. And one of the biggest things that I learned was that I was not getting the attention. I wanted to know the why. Like, why did this happen to my son? And the etiology that it was kind of just getting ignored and pushed away. And now I have the knowledge and the information to continue to pursue this now with resources that, genetics and other things that we want to do for our son. And so we can find out, why this happened so we can better help him. So I'll take that with me home.
Excellent. Love it. Here's one in the middle. Jane's in the middle there. Kara?
Where? Oh, sorry.
There she is. Yep, here comes Jamie.
Well, my experience didn't start like everyone else in that I have been with this awesome group of women since before the foundation. Well, the foundation had a foundation, and that was it. And it was expanding a little at a time, and we as a group of 14 women gathered like this, and we hashed back and forth our heartbreaks, our thrilling experiences. We were sponsored by Lundbeck at the time, and I was talking to someone today, and I look at it as this shining light that just came down on us and provided us with a way, not only for ourselves, but to begin this whole experience. And I look around, and not right at the moment, but when this is full, and I think to myself, this isn't even everybody. This is a conference, and not everybody could come. There are so many out there, and this foundation was God-inspired. God actually gave us this gift, and I'm so happy to see the women that I knew before it started pushing it and keeping it afloat. And I mean, I can't even explain how my heart is just so full to see what you've done. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks, Jane. On that note, I guess I'm going to confess something that I wasn't going to confess. Not that bad, but one of the things that I put on my to-do list, actions I want to take, is to contribute to the LGS Foundation after this. And I don't know, how much that's going to be or, when we'll do that. But I was so jazzed by when Tracy was talking about, here's some research we funded and here's some research we funded. And I just want to fund more amazing research. So I wrote that down because I thought I'm going to go over all those things with my husband when I get home. But if there's two things, I'm going to say 2 things I want you all to take away from this conference. One would be there is hope. And I hope you saw enough evidence of that during these couple of days. And the other part is that you are a very important member of our family. And so thank you very much for coming, and I look forward to celebrating with you tonight at the dinner dance. These guys will be up here, so come and talk with them. They'll be at the dinner dance, and then we'll see everyone at the butterfly release, which is incredibly beautiful, at 6, okay? Thank you all so much.